Hello and welcome to Narayana Eyes. I'm Pratik, your faculty for Daily News Analysis. Now students, as part of Daily News Analysis, we shall be discussing 5 important topics from the Hindu and the Indian Express. So let's have a quick brief over the topics that we shall be discussing in today's session. The first topic is taken from Indian Express page number 11. Now in this article, students, we are going to understand the internal security challenges that our country will be facing in the next few years and how do we overcome these challenges. The second article is taken from Hindu page number 8. Now in this article we shall be discussing the reasons behind the increasing factory or the industrial accidents. At the same time we are going to discuss the legal as well as institutional frameworks to prevent such accidents. The third article is taken from Indian Express page number 16. Now, in this article, students, we shall be discussing the India and UK Free Trade Agreement. In the fourth article, which we have taken from Indian Express page number 7, we are going to understand the Lancet Study on air pollution and how air pollution is contributing to the deaths in major cities in our country. And the last article is taken from Hindu page number 13. In this article, we shall be discussing about the cabinet committees which the government has reconstituted recently. These are the 5 topics that we shall be discussing, and finally we shall be discussing few practice questions so that you understand the type of questions that are asked in the UPSC examination. Right, students? So let's get started. So students, the title of the first topic is 9 internal security challenges. And in this topic, we are going to focus the internal security challenges that our country will encounter in the years to come. And this topic is important from GS paper 3 internal security perspective. Now, a previous question was asked in the year 2013. What is the question? How far are India's internal security challenges linked with border management, particularly in view of the long porous borders with most countries of South Asian Myanmar? So, such type of questions, students, can be expected in the UPSC examination. Now, let's understand what is the context of the topic. The context is that the author of the article is trying or discussing the internal security challenges that a country will face in the years to come and how it is important for a country to have a well orchestrated plan to address the challenges that we might encounter in the years to come. Now, students, we know that India's international image or the economy is growing year on year. Now, to complement India's international image, we also need to ensure that there is internal cohesion in our country. That is very, very important to boost India's image at the global level. And that's the reason we have to overcome the issues. So, let us try to understand or discuss the 9 internal security challenges and solutions. So, students, this is straightforward question and answer for you. So whenever you get a question asking you to highlight the internal security challenges, you can mention all these challenges and solutions, right? So the first challenge is that we do not have a comprehensive national security doctrine. Now, what is national security doctrine? National security doctrine is a comprehensive framework that outlines or that deals with our country's strategic approach or response to the challenges. So, as of now, the response is ad hoc. We do not have a comprehensive framework of our national security doctrine. Why? Because a comprehensive national security doctrine would encompass components such as strategic objectives, threat assessment, the types of threats, then the policy framework, the resource allocation, the management of resources, at the same time international cooperation to deal with the challenges. So we do not have a comprehensive national security doctrine. And having a national security doctrine is important to deal with the security issues. And what is the solution? The solution is that we have to develop a national security doctrine. This is first challenge, that is national security doctrine. The second challenge pertains with the Ministry of Home Affairs, which is overburdened. You might wonder, why is this ministry overburdened? Because this ministry is looking after many issues, be it border management, be it the coordination with the state police, or the central armed police force, be it the law and order, or be it the implementation of the National Population Register NPR or NRC. Then it also handles specific projects like UI, DAI. That's the reason this ministry is overburdened. And that's the reason it is very important to have a dedicated ministry to deal with the internal security challenges, or to have a junior minister with independent charge to look after the internal security challenges. So this is what we can do to have a dedicated ministry. The third, this is the second issue. The third, Jammu and Kashmir. Now we know that the terror incidents in our country, especially in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, is decreasing. But still, terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir is a problem still persisting. The region is still unstable. Why? Because we get to hear, or we get to witness, or see, or read the terrorist attacks happening in the Jammu and Kashmir region. Now, students, for the national integration, to strengthen our national security, it is very important that we stable, or we improve the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. It is very, very crucial for the national integration purpose. So what do we do to improve the situation in Jammu and Kashmir? One, enhance, strengthen the security. Right? Work on the various dimensions that fall under the security dimension. Then make sure that the statehood of the state is restored as soon as possible. Make sure the elections are held as soon as possible. So you have to win the people's hearts and minds. Right? The next issue is the Northeast. Now, students, when it comes to Northeast, we know that ethnic conflicts is a major issue in the Northeastern region. Then, unfulfilled agreements. For example, you must have come across, or you must be knowing that there was this recent agreement signed between Nationalist Socialist Council of Nagaland, Isaac Muiwa, and the Government of India. This agreement was signed in the year 2015, but there's no outcome of the agreement, which means unfulfilled agreement. Ethnic conflicts, there are many tribal groups, ethnicities in Northeast, they have their own tensions, and that is one of the major reasons why Northeastern region is often or has often witnessed major violent incidents. And then there are other issues such as illegal migration, drug trafficking, and arms. Again, to improve the situation in Northeast, peace and stability is very, very important for national integration and national security. And there's a reason to improve the situation in Northeast, we have to ensure that there is strict adherence to the suspension of operation agreements, like the agreement that was signed between the Nationalist Socialist Council of Nagaland and the Government of India, so as to improve the situation, right? So this is the fourth challenge, Northeast. The fifth is the Naxal problem. Again, when it comes to Naxal problem, yes, there's a reduction in the violent activities, but again, the problem still persists. So it is, again, for the sake of national integration and security, it is very important for our country to deal with this Naxal menace. Now, students, when it comes to the problems that the tribal community in our country is facing, especially in the Red Corridor region, one of the major reasons behind the violence is failure of land reforms. So, when it comes to land reforms, unfortunately, we did not execute or implement the reforms related to land inlet and spill. So, the grievance, the anger because of the faulty implementation of land reforms was a major reason behind the rise of Naxalism in India. And that's the reason, again, to find a solution, we have to offer peace initiatives. There has to be unilateral ceasefire. There has to be genuine negotiation with the rebels. And then we have to make sure that we integrate the Naxals or the tribals within the mainstream society. How? By offering peaceful initiatives, right? By ensuring the region is developed, etc. Then the next challenge is the Intelligence Bureau and the Central Bureau of Investigation. Let's focus on first IB. Now, students, it is very important that we restructure and make sure that the Intelligence Bureau has statutory backing. As of now, the IB is not backed by any statutory backing. There is no law that deals Intelligence Bureau comprehensively. And that's the reason the Intelligence Bureau at times can be vulnerable to political pressures. There is no autonomy. Right? So, to make sure that the IB is functioning in letter and spirit, we have to make sure that the IB gets a statutory status so that the powers and functions of the IB are independent and they can carry on or they can undertake the operations in a very clandestine and effective manner. Same is the case with Central Bureau of Investigation. Now, when it comes to Central Bureau of Investigation, though it is supported or the CBI derives its powers from the Delhi Police Special Establishment Act 1946, but the problem is the legislation is outdated, which means the legislation does not take care of the current or the ongoing challenges. For example, the CBI, when it comes to infrastructure, resources, the current legislation is inadequate. And that's the reason, just like IB, we also need to strengthen the CBI by making sure that the CBI is autonomous. This is the sixth challenge. The seventh is with respect to state police. Now, when it comes to state police, we have inherited this system from the British. And this colonial mindset is still, or the colonial mindset is something that we often get to see in the functioning of the police. So, for example, it seems that the police, they cater to the political demands. It is important for the police to address the problems that the common people are facing. So, it is important for the police to have this people-friendly approach, which means the police should be people's police and not the rulers' police, which means they should be sensitive to the needs and demands of the people, right? So again, the state police, it is very important that we reform the state police so as to ensure that the police are serving the people. The eighth challenge is pertaining to the Central Armed Police Forces like the CISF, the CRPF, the BSF, the Sashastra Seema Bal, etc. Now, when it comes to the Central Armed Police Forces, there are problems like unplanned expansion, inadequate training, and internal friction. Now, it is very important that a high-powered commission be set or be established by the government to resolve the internal problems so as to ensure that training, discipline, and selection criteria is taken care of, or there is a transparent mechanism. This is the eighth challenge and the solution. The ninth is with respect to technology. Now, we know that the world has made significant advancement in the field of technology. But again, we are somehow unable to utilize or leverage technology. For example, when it comes to technological advancement, we have artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics, the drones. So again, students, it is very important that to address the internal security challenges, we have to leverage technology so that we deal and we counter the challenges with the use of or with the help of technology. So these are the 9 challenges and the solution. So in the conclusion, what can we see? Once we understand all the challenges and the solution, in the conclusion, we can mention that a country's international strength, right? The country's international strength is tied with internal cohesion. It is very important that we remain strong internally too. And to make sure that there is internal cohesion or the internal security problems is taken care of, we have to develop a comprehensive framework or approach, like by making sure that we have a robust national security doctrine. So by making sure that we are able to deal with the internal security challenge, we can enhance our global image. For that, we would need efforts from all state of the society, like the government, society, so that our nation is strong and secure. I hope, students, in this article you understood all the 9 challenges, solution, and how we need to proceed further, right? Students, the title of the next topic is Factory Accidents, a pointer to rusty inspection reform. Now, in this article, we shall understand what is factory industry accidents and the reasons behind such accidents and what can be done to prevent such accidents, right? And we can mark this topic under GS paper 3, right? Under disaster management. So, a question was asked in the year 2020. The question was discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by the Government of India, right? So, what is the context? The context is that the recurrence of the industrial or the factory accidents have exposed or highlighted the inadequacies, the lacunas, the loopholes in the existing inspection and regulatory framework, which means there's something wrong because of which the accidents are taking place. It's not that we have not taken any measures, we have taken measures, but still the problem of the industry and factory accidents still persists. For example, in the last decade, India has reported over 130 significant chemical accidents. This is the context. The question is, what does one understand by industrial and chemical disaster? Now, the students, the industrial and chemical disasters, they are characterized by sudden release of hazardous chemicals. Now, the release of hazardous chemicals, it leads to several disruptions and loss of lives. Now, the accidents actually they stem from various reasons. And which are these various reasons or causes? Regulatory frameworks, lack of safety protocols, and inadequate worker training. It is because of these reasons the accidents occur. Now, these are some of the examples of the major industrial disasters in India in the past. The most significant and probably the world's biggest disaster was the Bhopal gas tragedy in the year 1984. It was caused because of the release of methyl isocyanate gas. Next, Vizag gas leak in the year 2020. Now, this was because of the styrene gas leak from LG Polymers chemical plant. The third, the Stellite copper plant in the year 18. Now, this was caused because of the pollution caused by the Stellite copper plant. And the next is the Neyveli lignite plant boiler explosion, which is in Tamil Nadu. Now, this was because of poor maintenance. So, again, whenever you mention about the industrial disasters, make sure that you are also mentioning these examples, right? Now, let us try to understand the reasons. One is poor inspection rates. Now, students, in order to prevent any major accident, it is very important that there has to be thorough inspection. But here we get to see that the inspection rate is poor. For example, in Maharashtra had an inspection rate of just 24% for hazardous factories and only 8% for general factories in the year 2021. The second is shortage of personnel. Again, shortage of 40% of the sanctioned posts filled in Maharashtra. Now, because of the shortage, the burden falls on the existing inspectors. Third, insufficient worker training and awareness. For example, the boiler operation, which is very, very significant, crucial and dangerous. Now, they are handled by untrained contractual workers. Third reason. Fourth, ineffective prosecution. Now, students, to create a deterrence or to create a deterrence mechanism or a deterrence, it is very important that the people who are guilty should be punished. Now, because of low prosecution rates, let's say in the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, people are not taking the safety measures seriously, right? Which means the deterrence mechanism is missing. Fourth, factor. Fifth, corruption, bribery. Now the auditors who inspect the factories and the factory owners, there's an understanding between these two people. That's the reason the auditors, they fail to do their job properly, leading to accidents. Lack of maintenance. Maintenance being a major reason because of which the accidents also occur. So these are the 6 factors or reasons responsible behind or for the industrial and the factory accidents, right? So you can mention any 4 to 5 reasons that will do your job. Now consequences. 1, loss of lives and injuries. Many people die because of the accidents. Many people get injured and the injury is lifelong injury. Environmental damage. The soil, water, air quality gets affected because of release of harmful chemicals. Economic losses. There's loss to the industrial infrastructure. Productivity gets hampered. There's economic burden because of compensation and rehabilitation. And the property value in the nearby areas also fall because of accidents, which means economy also takes a big setback. Public health crisis. Now, because of the release of harmful gases, the public health, or for that matter, it leads to health crisis, and the health crisis being long-term in nature, right? It leads to several chronic diseases like the liver problem and heart problem, etc. whatnot. It also leads to psychological trauma. So it also leads to, which means the consequence being that it also leads to public health crisis, which can be catastrophic, right? So these are the consequences. Now the International Labour Organization has recommended that the factories have to take certain measures to prevent accidents, and which are these? 1, adequate number of qualified inspectors. We have already discussed this point. Second, strong legal framework, which means the laws should be strictly adhered to. Each and every factory owner or factory should comply with the guidelines and the laws, right? And third is compliance and advisory role. The inspector should also provide advice to employers and unions so as for the employees and the unions to follow the law. So these are the recommendations given by International Labour Organization. Then talking about the legal safeguards. Now students, when it comes to such topics, you need to mention the names of the laws that India has. For example, when it comes to Factories Act of 1984, it governs the working conditions in the factories. Then we have the Environment Protection Act. It provides framework for environmental regulation and protection against industrial pollution. Then the Indian Boiler Regulations, it specifies standards for the design, construction and operation of boilers to ensure safety. So you need to know the laws which deals with the factory and the industry accidents. International law, again mention this example, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 25 to 2030. Then the United Nations Convention on the Transboundary Effects of Industrial Accidents 1992. So this is how you need to diversify your answer. So the way forward is, again we have discussed all these points. Inspection system has to be robust, implementing the International Labour Organization recommendations. Penal system for enforcers, which means there has to be a deterrence mechanism. And then most importantly, we have to ensure there should be transparency, right? So this is how we can prevent the industrial and the factory accidents, right? Students, the next topic is about India-UK FTA. In this article, we are going to understand what is the free trade agreement and different types of FTAs, and you can map this under GS paper 2 international relations. Prelims asked in the year 2008, in the context of which of the following do you sometimes find the terms amber box, blue box and green box in the news, right? So these are the options and the answer is a very easy one, that is WTO affairs. Right now the context is that India and UK have been negotiating a free trade agreement over 2 years now. They are negotiating FTA but yet to conclude FTA. So what exactly is this FTA? Let us try to understand it. Now, FTA is a pact between two or more nations, free trade agreement. The purpose of FTA is to reduce or eliminate barriers. Now, let me help you in understanding this term with the help of an example. Let's say I'm importing this pen from UK, right? This pen in UK costs 100 rupees, right? Now, when this pen is being imported in India, India imposes or levies import duty and different types of, let's say, quota, or let's say different types of tariff. So, when this pen is brought in the Indian market, this pen is sold for, let's say, 200 rupees, right? Now, because of the tariff, because of the taxes, the price of this pen is increasing, which means, let's say there's another pen which has been imported, or let's say imported or taken from Bangladesh. Now, the same pen we are getting in India for, let's say, 120 rupees. So, there's a high chance that the people of our country will buy that 120 rupees pen over this 200 rupees pen. But what if the government of India eliminates all the tariff or the quota, which means when we are buying this pen from UK, it is for 100 rupees. We are getting this in India, we are getting, let's say, this for 105 rupees. Now, there's a high chance that more and more number of people will buy this pen, which means the free trade agreement will eliminate the barriers and it would lead to more and more trade between two or more countries. This is free trade agreement. Simple. In India, this falls under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The negotiation over FTAs with different countries is handled by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Simple. Now, these are the different types of FTAs. One is bilateral, which means it involves two countries, right? India-Sri Lanka FTA example. Multilateral between more than two countries. For example, the North American FTA, Canada, Mexico and USA. Then regional FTA. For example, ASEAN, the ASEAN countries, the group of 10 Southeast Asian countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore, etc. The customs union. Now, in this, there's free trade among member countries with a common external tariff against non-members, which means, let's say, Europe, or let's say South African Customs Union. Now, in the South African countries, the policy, or let's say the tariff, is the same. And when it comes to tariff with respect to the other countries, the tariff that these region imposes is the same. Economic union, this is more integrated form of FTA. Now, with coordinated economic policies and free movement of goods, service, capital and labor. For example, European Union is an example. Then preferential trade agreement. Agreement where countries reduce tariff for certain products. Only certain products are chosen and the tariff is eliminated or reduced. For example, India Mercosur. Now, what is Mercosur? Mercosur is a bloc consisting of 4 countries. One is Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay. The next is Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Now, this is a broader agreement involving trade in both goods as well as services, investment, intellectual property right and competition policy. For example, India-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And last is the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, which is similar to CEPA, that is similar to this, but it involves or includes broader cooperation beyond trade. For example, education and culture. For example, India-Singapore. These are the different types of FTAs. So, once India and UK sign FTA, UK will get advantages with respect to these things, right? So, you can read this out, right? And when it comes to India, once the FTA is signed, India will get advantage or benefits with respect to these things, right? So, that's the reason it is very important that both the countries should sign FTA so that trade between both the countries gets a boost. I hope students you understood this article. Students, the title of the next topic is Air Pollution Behind 7% of the Deaths in 10 Cities. This is a Lancet study. Now, in this article, you need to understand what is air pollution or the pollution leading to deaths in our country, right? So, you can map this under GS paper 3. So, previous question asked in the year 2016, you can please go through the question and see if you can answer this question. The context is that about 11.5% of annual deaths in Delhi, approximately 12,000, is because of air pollution. 11, almost 12%. This is the highest mortality death rate attributed to air pollution for any city in India. This is how air pollution is killing the people of our country. The Lancet study covered 10 cities in our country, and these are the 10 cities: Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, Pune, Shimla and Varanasi. What is Lancet? Now students, Lancet is the world's oldest and the most prestigious medical journal. It was started in 1823. It is named after a surgical instrument called Lancet to signify the journal's focus on medical and surgical advancement. This is what is Lancet. So important to remember is that it is world's oldest and most prestigious medical journal. Now in this context students, it is important to understand what is National Clean Air Program. Now National Clean Air Program was launched in Jan 2019 by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. What is the objective? To reduce the air pollution. Simple. It aims, now this can be asked in the pre-examination students. The NCAP aims to reduce PM 2.5 and PM 10 concentration by 20 to 30% by 2024. This is very, very important to remember. 2017 is the base year. The program envisages to achieve reductions up to 40% of particulate matter 10 by 25 and 26. So again, here there has to be coordination between central and the state governments, urban local bodies and other stakeholders. So all these points are very, very important for your pre, so as to reduce the air pollution. Now again, more about the news. Across the 10 cities, approximately 7% of all deaths are attributed to air pollution. Now less polluted cities like Bangalore and Shimla have shown stronger effects on mortality. Why? Actually, the less polluted cities like Bangalore and Shimla showing stronger effect to mortality means that there is higher sensitivity to pollution in these cities or people living in these cities. So the conclusion is that students, the Lancet study provides new insights into the relationship between the air pollution and deaths in our country. So this is something very, very significant and alarming, and it is very important that the government takes significant steps to reduce the air pollution. That's it students. Students, the next article is about the cabinet committees. So in this article, we shall understand what are cabinet committees, and you can map this under GS paper 2, right? So a previous question was asked in the year 2014, and the question was the size of the cabinet should be as big as the government work justifies and as big as the Prime Minister can manage as a team. So this question talks about the cabinet, right? So what is the context? The context is that the newly formed government has reconstituted various cabinet committees. Now the cabinet committees, you must have heard what are parliamentary committees, but what are cabinet committees? They are the highest decision making bodies on security, economic affairs, political affairs, right? So cabinet committees are essential parts of the governmental framework. One, it is established by the Prime Minister. The cabinet committees, they are established by the Prime Minister, is very important point for your prelims, to manage the complexities of the governance efficiently. So to manage the governance, we have the cabinet committees. We'll understand the difference, don't worry. They handle specific areas. Who? The cabinet committees handle specific areas such as security, economic affairs and parliamentary affairs. They are extra constitutional, again a point for your prelims, which means that it is not mentioned in the constitution. What? Cabinet committees, they are mentioned in the rules of business. All these points are very important for your prelims. Then there are two types of committees. One is standing, which are permanent, and ad hoc, which are temporary in nature, right? Now the formation and composition. As discussed, the Prime Minister forms these committees as and how the situation or need demands. Now, the number of cabinet committees, the nomenclature, composition of these committees can vary time to time. Typically, they include 3 to 8 members, mainly the cabinet ministers, which also means that even non-cabinet ministers can also be a part of the cabinet committees, which means a part or along with the cabinet committees or cabinet ministers, the non-cabinet ministers can also be a part of the cabinet committees. And who decides this? The Prime Minister. Usually it is the Prime Minister who heads the committees. It doesn't mean the other ministers cannot head. Let's say, for example, Cabinet Committee on Security, right? Let's say the Prime Minister is not a part of the committee and the Home Minister is part of the committee, which means in such case the Home Minister can also be or can also head the Cabinet Committee. But when Prime Minister is a part or member of any of the committee, he by default becomes the head of that Cabinet Committee, right? Which means along with Prime Minister, other ministers can also be the head of the cabinet committees. Very important point for your pre. Now, there are total 24 cabinet committees, out of which there are these 3 committees which are very, very, very important. One is security. Now, this is considered to be the most powerful and important cabinet committee. Why? Because it deals with national security issues. Next, we have Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Next is Parliamentary Affairs, right? These 3 are the most important. Now, what are the significance? We know that the cabinet has got a lot of work. The cabinet committees, they help the cabinet ministers. Simple. They manage the substantial load of the cabinet. Then they enable thorough examination of policy issues. See, students, when it comes to making law, it is the mandate of the parliament. When it comes to making policies, it is the government who makes the policies. So, the cabinet committees, they examine the policies thoroughly. Then they enhance coordination among different ministries. Then they facilitate the efficient use of time and human resource. And they operate on the principle of labor division and effective delegation, right? So, this is the significance of cabinet committees. It is very important to compare cabinet committees and parliamentary committees. One, when it comes to cabinet committees, it is a discretion of the government, which means the Prime Minister establishes it. When it comes to parliamentary committee, it is established under 118, which means it is constitutional. This one is not constitutional. Very important point for your pre. Second, when it comes to cabinet committees, it includes senior ministers and Prime Minister. Parliamentary committees has both the members of Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, right? The parliamentary committees has also members from the opposition political parties. Nature, it is executive in nature. Executive, which means government. This one, legislative, right? So, this is the third major difference. Fourth, policy making and implementation, which is the mandate of the government, as I discussed in the last slide. And here, ensuring accountability and scrutiny of policies that are taken by the government. Decision making, highest level decision making. Let's say, for example, Article 370 has to be revoked. Who takes such decisions? The cabinet committees, highest decision making. The parliamentary committees, they examine the decisions taken by the cabinet committees or the government. This is the major difference between cabinet committee and parliament committee. I hope students you understood this particular topic. Students, now it's time to discuss prelims practice questions. So let's get started. Question number 1, here you have to pair the industrial disaster with the causes. 1, the Bhopal gas tragedy, methyl isocyanate gas leak from the pesticide. Yes, this one is correct. Vizag gas leak, ammonia gas, wrong. This is the sterlite gas, right? So, this one is incorrect. The third one, Sterlite copper plant incident of 18, protest against pollution led to police. Yes, this was the protest against pollution. And then the fourth one, this one is correct. So, the fourth one is Neyveli lignite plant boiler explosion. This was because of the pollution actually. So, even this one is incorrect. which means statement 1 and 3. So students, UPSC is asking such type of questions. That's the reason I included this question, so as to understand that such type of questions can be asked in the UPSC examination. So second question, this about the FTAs. The FTAs primarily aims at eliminating tariffs and quotas between the member countries. Yes, this one is correct. This is what we had discussed. The FTAs can only be signed wrong. It can be signed between two countries or more than two countries. The WTO oversees the implementation of FTAs. Incorrect. WTO has got nothing to do with FTAs. It is the governments of more than two countries or the governments of countries who are responsible for the implementation of FTAs. So, option 1, that is A, has to be the correct answer for question number 2. Next, this about the cabinet committees. First statement, they are established under the Indian Constitution. Incorrect. They are extra constitutional. They include both cabinet and non-cabinet ministers. Yes. The Prime Minister always presides over every wrong, which means the other ministers like Home Minister can also preside. The Cabinet Committee on Security is considered the most powerful. Yes. Which means 2 and 4, option C seems to be the correct answer for question number 3. Now next is with respect to National Clean Air Program, NCAP, was launched in Jan 2017. No, it was launched in 2019. This is incorrect. The primary objective of NCAP is to reduce air pollution levels across India and improve. Yes. The program envisages achieving reductions up to 40% for PM10 concentration. Yes. This keyword is PM10. Right. And with respect to PM2.5, it is 26%. Right. So, this one is also correct. The NCAP involves multi-level approach with coordination between. Yes, even this one is correct. So, here option B is the correct answer for question number 4. Now, mains practice question. The question is elucidate the multifaceted internal security challenges confronting India with a particular emphasis on systematic inadequacies, administrative disarray and technological deficits. Critically analyze the efficacy of existing institutional frameworks and propose strategic imperatives to bolster internal cohesion and preempt potential security threats. Students, they have just complicated the question. The question is asking you to highlight the challenges, internal security challenges. Simple. But the words have been crafted so as to confuse the aspirant. If you read the question carefully, the question is actually a very simple one. The words are only difficult to decipher. So, again, in the introduction, you have to mention the significance of internal security. Why it is important for any country to maintain the internal security. Why? Because it is very important to focus on internal security so as to ensure the growth of a country. So, if there are internal problems, the growth gets hampered. So, it is important to maintain internal security. Now, mention the challenges. 1. We do not have a comprehensive national security doctrine. Then, the IB does not enjoy statutory status. The CBI does not enjoy autonomy. Then, you can mention that how MHA is overburdened, how there are inefficiencies in these central armed police forces, how there are challenges in these state police reforms, right? We have discussed all these points, friends, right, in the topic. Then, we are not able to leverage the technological advancements like the drones, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Right? And then you can highlight the or you can also mention the critical analysis of existing framework, which means the existing framework is not sufficient, is not adequate to handle the challenges, right? And then finally, you can mention that it is very important in the solution part. It is very important that we have a comprehensive national security doctrine, have a dedicated ministry which can look after the internal security issues, right? And then we have to make sure that we restructure and empower the institutions like IB and CBI. Necessary reforms should be undertaken in the state police, right? And these are these. And then again, of course, the technological integration. We have to use the advancement, the technological or technologies like the big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, so as to ensure that all the plug holes or loopholes are taken care of and we strengthen our internal security doctrine. This is how you need to write the mains answer. I hope students you understood all the 4 or 5 prelims questions that we have discussed and 1 mains question. And along with this, I hope students you understood all the 5 topics that we have discussed in today's DNA session. So students, if you want us to continue with our DNA session, then please do like, share and support Narayana IAS. Thank you so much.